Good afternoon. This is Scott Thomas from Jeff's Catering. I need a haircut just like everybody else, and I hope that my gray roots aren't showing. And I'd like to welcome you to the Greater Bangor Association of Realtors membership webinar, live via Zoom from Jeff's Catering, May 5th, 2020. Today we have a program for you regarding financial assistance, COVID-19. We hope that our speakers, Charlie Milan from Camden National Bank and Anne-Marie Story from Rudman and Winchell, will shed some light on the financial issues that us realtors are having. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This next item is the truly the highlight of my year as your president. It's a complete honor to introduce your Realtor of the Year. There is no greater honor for us as realtors than to be recognized by our peers. The recipient of the Realtor of the Year is a person who I met in 2014 when she became a Realtor board member. Instantly, I knew that she was a no-nonsense, tell it like it is, genuine person. Instantly, I knew that she said what she meant and meant what she said. I knew that realtors was very important to her. I knew that realtor ethics were at her very core. Professionalism was very important to her. While she served as a board member, committee member, MAR board member, later as treasurer, president-elect, and our 2019 president, she demonstrated a level of devotion unlike any others. I have attended 2 national realtor conventions with her in Boston and San Francisco, and a legislative trip to Washington with her. She's represented realtors and our local organization with complete honor and professionalism. She's a major donor to RPAC as well. She also has a life outside realtors. She's treasurer of the Lincoln Chamber of and serves on numerous other boards and committees. The list is far too long to give you. After becoming our president, she demonstrated complete dominance over medical adversities and recently has gracefully become a proud grandparents with her husband, Phil. She runs the day-to-day operations of United Country Lifestyle Properties of Maine and has established a new office in Bangor in addition to the Lincoln office. Maybe another office too, I'm not sure. Although we cannot all be together because of this virus curse, when life is normal, we will celebrate in the fall like we never have before. I will again make this presentation when we can all be together and show her our appreciation and respect. I have the distinct and sincere honor to introduce to you the 2020 Realtor of the Year and our friend, Carmen McPhail. There is no other more deserving. Carmen, congratulations, and hold on one second. Hold on. Since we can't get you a plaque this year, this is your plaque for now. Congratulations, Realtor of the Year 2020, Marcia. Yeah, Marcia. Congratulations, Marcia. Carmen McPhail. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
And we are practicing.
We are.
Safe Realtor.
Safe Realtor. Thank you, guys. I'm really honored to have this happen. I'm really humbled by the people that voted for me, and I really appreciate this organization and the people who run it. Marcia's the glue that holds us all together, and she helps every one of us be the best that we can be. So thank you.
Hey, Carmen. Okay, I'll now turn over the meeting to Marcia to introduce our guest speakers today. Go ahead, Marcia.
Thank you, Scott, and congratulations, Carmen, well deserved. So just a couple of quick notes. This presentation today is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, which is accessible from our web page. Also, your audio and video are turned off by default. You'll see a Q&A icon down at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions at the end of the presentation, we'll be asking our presenters your questions. And also, if your video seems to lag a little bit, just close out some of the tabs on your browser and any background programs that you have me running, and you should see a difference. So first off, we're going to talk with Charlie Mylan from Camden National. Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you, Marcia, and congratulations, Carmen. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the SBA's two programs during the COVID-19 pandemic, the SBA PPP loan, which is the Paycheck Protection Program, and also the SBA's Economic Injury Development Loan. So first on the PPP loan, there's, in the second round of funding, there's still a little bit of money left. So the first round was $350 billion. And that $350 billion went out within a week. And an interesting thing about the PPP loan is most banks, when you institute a new lending program, it takes anywhere from 3 to 9 months to get a new program up and running and ready to lend so that you can make loans and close them. So the PPP loan, the biggest loan program in the history of the world, was up and running and loan applications were being taken within a week. So not to say that there haven't been some hiccups, but it's absolutely amazing that the federal government, through the Small Business Administration, through all the local banks and credit unions in the country, were able to put this loan from the creation on a Friday to implementation on the next Friday, so that applications were being taken and things were moving forward that quickly. So in the PPP loan, it doesn't really benefit the businesses per se, it benefits the employees. So it's, instead of putting the employees on unemployment, it allows them to stay on their payroll. And initially the way it works is that you take your average payroll over the last year plus the first quarter of this year, and the loan amount is 2.5 times that average payroll. The forgiveness part of it is currently still in the stage of vague and confusing. So the forgiveness part of it, although the loan is based on 2.5 months of income, income is capped per employee at $100,000. So the loan is 2.5 months. The payback of what is possibly forgiven is only 8 weeks. And it's 8 weeks from the day that the loan was funded, not the day that you closed on the loan, but the day that the loan was funded. So from the day you closed, from the day the loan was funded, 8 weeks going forward, the money that's paid out for payroll, mortgage interest, business interest on business loans, utilities, and rent can possibly be forgiven. So most people are saying the safest way to make sure it's all forgiven is to use it all for payroll. And in that, it's only 8 weeks of payroll, where the loan was 2.5 months, so 10 weeks of payroll. And your last pay period, if anybody out there has payroll, your last pay period needs to fall within those 8 weeks. It can't be an outlier. It was a surprise to a lot of people that, because people kept their employees on payroll from the beginning of the shutdown, which for most people was between March 15th and March 17th. And we heard about this program right away, but most people didn't close until the beginning of April. So all that money that was spent on payroll, it doesn't go retroactive. So all the money that people spent between when they shut down and when they got their loan was out of the business's pocket. And then moving forward, after 8 weeks, you provide all of your information back to the bank that you applied with. So you'll provide all the payroll records during that period, all the rent paid, all the mortgage interest, all the interest and the utilities paid. Only 25% of the loan can be used towards the other qualifying things, the rent, mortgage interest, and utilities. 75% of it has to be used for payroll. No employee can get over $100,000, but it's broken down by the week. So that in that pay period, if you happen to pay somebody, most people go on a 2-week pay period. So the maximum a person can receive in that 2-week pay period is $3,846.15. If somebody receives money more than that in the pay period, then that portion of it is not forgivable. If you don't have the same amount of full-time equivalent employees by June 30th, then your forgiveness will be adjusted. So say you only had 70% of the equivalent full-time employees, then only 70% of the loan is eligible for forgiveness. So more towards people that work as independent contractors, which most of you do. On that, the way the loan is figured is they take your, from 2019 tax return, your Schedule C, whatever your profit was, times 8/52. So your profit times 8 divided by 52, and that's what your eligible PPP loan is. And then 8 weeks after closing, you have from closing 8 weeks to in theory distribute that money to yourself, which it's not clear on how that's done because you don't pay yourself. So it's just the money comes in and the money goes out, and the information is not clear currently. It's part of the vague and confusing part of it on how you're going to document that that money was used to continue payroll. So we've got a few, the 75-25 rule, which is 75% of your payroll protection loan has to be used for payroll. You've got the full-time employee equivalent rule. So if you have part-timers, then you have to have the equivalent full-time employees the same as when the pandemic started, and you have till June 30th to get through that. The things that count towards the payroll are your actual payroll, retirement and health benefits, and at the end of the period, you provide all of your information back to the bank that you applied with to get hopefully all of the loan forgiven. Anything that's not forgiven, you don't have any payments on it for 6 months from the date of closing. And then starting on the 7th month, you have an 18-month loan. So and the loan's at 1%. So again, anything not forgiven is a 1% loan that has a payback of 18 months. The again, on the sole proprietors or independent contractors, during the term, you have a maximum of $15,385 that can be forgiven if you operate by yourself. If you operate as a team, then you're limited to $15,385 per employee maximum during that 8-week payback period. Anything over that $15,385 is not forgivable. Moving on to the economic injury development loan. So the economic injury development loan has always existed. It's a program when there's emergencies like hurricanes and tornadoes. And so it's usually a very localized disaster and nothing that was ever planned to be used for the entire nation at the same time. So historically, when you applied for it, as soon as the SBA, you applied directly on the SBA portal. So the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan, if the portal is open with the SBA, then that means they have funds available. If you can't get into the portal, it means that they don't have funds available. So historically, the way that works is as soon as the SBA acknowledges receipt of your application, they give you a $10,000 grant. And then sometime in the future, because it's always historically it's been a particular emergency that people need funds right away, to keep businesses operating and get cleaned up and back open again. So it's always been an immediate $10,000 grant, and then sometime in the future, the SBA contacts you and they go over your loan request. And the loan request is typically a 15 to 30-year loan. For COVID-19, they made an exception and modified the program just a little bit to make it work, because it's all of a sudden there's a national emergency and every business is qualified. Normally, you have to prove that you can't get a loan from a bank to be eligible for it, and that eligibility criteria got removed for COVID-19 to make every business and every self-employed person eligible. They didn't have the funding to do the immediate $10,000 grant, so they adjusted it to do a $1,000 grant per employee. So if you work in a team and you have a team of 5 and you submitted as a group to get the economic injury development loan, then you would be limited to $1,000 per person on your team if you apply as a team. You can apply independently as well. So, and the use of funds is to keep your business running. So whatever your business is, whatever you're being affected by, is to keep it operational so that once you get through, in our instance, this pandemic, that you're still able to continue operating as much as possible the way you were before the hardship. So one criteria for realtors is that they have to prove that they're independent from the main business. So whatever agency you work for, if you have ownership in that business, then you would not be eligible individually for the economic injury development loan. The business would. So it's open to sole proprietors, independent contractors, and I don't think any loans have closed on the economic injury development loan yet for anybody. So it's a direct program with the SBA. It does not go through banks. The grants have started to go out, so people are receiving the grants, and so that's all happening. On the economic injury development loan, the only way to get forgiveness is to shut down your business and dissolve it. And then the SBA will forgive a portion, typically 50 to 75% of the loan. The rest of it is not forgivable. And typically, if you were to shut down and dissolve, you would do a bankruptcy anyway. And then you may get the rest of it dismissed in a bankruptcy. So, Marsha, are we going to open up to questions, or are we going to wait until after all presentations?
I think, excuse me, in the interest of time, we want to make sure Anne Marie gets, you know, all that she has to say without it going too long. So I think we'll wait till the end and ask questions for each of you, if that works.
Very good. Okay.
So, all right, thank you, Charlie. Our next guest is Anne Marie Story from Rudman Winchell, who is going to talk to you about the unemployment options.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to focus on the portion of the unemployment that deals mostly with independent contractors, because I assume that most of, if not all of our listeners are in that category. So just to be clear, there's a whole lot going on now with leave issues and unemployment. So unemployment, independent contractors would not be eligible for the leave you've been hearing about under the FFCRA, which is the sick leave or the family medical leave expansion. And then there are several different categories of unemployment benefits, unfortunately, most of which you are also not entitled to because independent contractors generally don't collect unemployment. That knocks you out of state consideration, but the federal government has enacted 3 different kinds of benefits, one of which is intended to be specific to independent contractors and others in that category. And that's called the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, or the PUA is probably how you've heard it referred. So I just wanted to go through some of the parameters for that and what makes somebody eligible for it, and then talk a little bit about what it entitles you to receive. So the intention of this portion of the unemployment, as I said, is for individuals who ordinarily would not be entitled at all. And what it does is it permits you to collect unemployment for a period of a maximum of 39 weeks of benefits. You also would be entitled to, in addition to the regular unemployment amount, which we'll talk about in a minute in terms of how that's calculated, individuals receiving unemployment under the PUA are also entitled to the additional $600 payment that you no doubt have heard about, which falls under one of the other categories of benefits. I think the initials for that one are the PEUC. So that's in addition to the regular unemployment benefits you would receive. The duration of the additional $600 is more limited, though. That runs out at the end of July. So July 31st is the deadline for the additional $600 payment. If you qualify for the PUA unemployment benefits, you automatically qualify for the additional $600. There is no separate application to file to receive those benefits. So as long as you're getting the PUA, you're entitled to receive that additional amount as well. The PUA, as I said, entitles somebody to up to 39 weeks of benefits. It is retroactive, which is important to know because there's been a significant delay in people's ability to apply for, and in fact, I think people have just only now started to receive those benefits. It will be retroactive back to the date when you were no longer able to work, or the business was no longer operating, or you were no longer able to engage in that business. The benefits are set to end as of December 31st. Hopefully we are not in this situation by then, but if we are, that's right now, that's the cap on when the benefits end. So your 39 weeks, it has to be over by December 31st. And then, of course, as I said, the $600 ends on July 31st. So there are some parameters on what the reasons why somebody might be entitled to unemployment benefits under this section. They are quite different than the normal qualifying reasons for unemployment. So I thought I would just go through those quickly. Some of the reasons are the same. So if you've been diagnosed with COVID or you have symptoms of it and are seeking a diagnosis, you are entitled to benefits. If a member of your household has been diagnosed with COVID, if you are providing care for someone diagnosed with COVID, and that is not limited to someone in your household. If you are providing care for a child who is out of school and daycare or childcare is not available, you are eligible. If you have been quarantined or advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine, if you were scheduled to start employment and do not have a job or can't be there because of COVID, if you have become the breadwinner of a household because the head of the household has died as a result of COVID, if you have had to quit your job because of COVID, if your place of employment, which wouldn't obviously apply to an independent contractor, is closed because of it, or if the Secretary of Labor determines there are other categories that would be applicable. So for all of those reasons, you could be entitled to the unemployment benefits. This is true even if, if you are able to work or you're able to work remotely, then you may not be entitled to the benefits. So questions have arisen, what if I can show houses in certain circumstances but not others? And so my work is 20% of what it used to be. There is an ability to work part-time and also receive unemployment benefits part-time. So just the fact that you're able to do something does not disqualify you completely from receiving the benefits. So those are the general parameters of the PUA benefits. Now, in terms of how the amount that you would receive is calculated, what they will do is ask you to self-attest for your earnings from either 2018 or 2019. My understanding from the DOL at this point is that when you file your initial application, at least as of right now, they are not asking for submission of all that information, and that they will come back to folks when they're ready to get it and ask for it. When they do ask for it, though, it will have to support whatever it is you represent as your earnings. So the way the benefits work is that they start at 50% of the average weekly state unemployment benefit for self-employed folks. That's only $172 per week. But if you're self-employed and the department can verify your documented reported earnings, you will receive more than that, although the maximum benefit is $445 per week. Now, keep in mind that there is the additional $600 as well, at least as of up to July 31st, or July 25th is what this says. I've seen 31st somewhere else. You do need to refile or recertify every week in order to be eligible for those benefits or to continue collecting them. So that's sort of a general rundown of the PUA benefits that could be available for independent contractors. We can certainly talk about issues related to employees if there are owners of businesses and have folks other than realtors who are working their business, but I guess without making that assumption, I'll wait and see if there are questions about that.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Marie. So not seeing any questions yet.
I can't believe it.
I know, well, maybe they're slow typers. Let's see. I'm sure there are some. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Okay, here's one. Can you get PPE and unemployment? That seems to be a question that comes up.
Do they mean
Can you?
PPE? So that would be a question of half for Charlie and half for me.
Right. It says PP. Yeah, PPP.
So
Well,
if it's an independent contractor, they have to pick one, so they can't get both. So in theory they could, but then if you haven't put yourself back on payroll, then you are not making any payments out of the PPP, so none of it would be forgiven.
Well, right, because if you're being paid for working, or at least that's what the PPE is trying to replace, then you're not eligible for unemployment to begin with.
Okay. I don't know if you can answer this one. Does this only affect Maine, or is this also in other states?
Do they mean the PPE or the PUA? I can answer for unemployment. This PUA is a federal program, so it's not state specific.
Okay.
And the PPP program is a federal program as well, so it's the same in all states. Other states have different unemployment rules and unemployment compensation.
And states will have different levels of compensation. So whereas I said the max here is $445, that may be different in another state.
Okay. For PUA, is determination based on income? In other words, I'm working full-time as an agent, but have not generated any income from closings as yet. Can I qualify?
Well, what they've said is that you have to attest to your earnings in either 2018 or 19. So if somebody has just recently started as an agent and doesn't have any earnings as an agent in 2018 or 19, I would say you still would apply, and I guess the DOL is going to want to make its own determination as to how your income would be computed. If there are no earnings for them to base it on, it may be that they're going to be limited to the 50% of the state average, which is the 172 that I mentioned.
Okay, thank you. And what is the difference for W-2 employees, particularly a parent who has to stay home with kids for the PUA?
Well, I don't think that person is likely going to qualify. The PUA is intended to address people who don't fall into regular unemployment categories. And so unless there's something unusual about that person, if they're employed in a regular job, they are likely to fall under regular state unemployment, so that they would get, they'd get state unemployment potentially, and also the $600 extra, but they wouldn't be qualifying under the PUA.
Okay. And can they get that for just having to stay home with kids who have no other place to go?
Yeah, I believe that's one of the amended reasons, and not ordinarily, no, but under the amended state unemployment benefits, and they should certainly apply and let the DOL tell them whether they're eligible or not.
Okay. I believe I read there is a maximum gross or net income filing jointly for 2018 or 2019, correct? And if so, what are those limits? Maximum gross or net income filing jointly.
For what?
I assume to receive the PUA, maybe. Yes, I'm going to assume on this one.
I don't know how to answer that because what I have is the way they're doing the calculations, and the max depends on what your earnings were for 2018 or 2019.
Okay. What are the parameters to qualify for part-time PUA benefits?
Well, I think you would have to certify to the Department of Labor what you made in 2018 or 2019 as compared to what you're earning now if you're working part-time, and they would make a determination as to what your benefit would be.
So you can get partial benefits for a much lower year this year?
The DOL is going to have to answer that for them. That's not my what I can do.
Some of our members are also landlords. Does the PUA apply to them also?
Well, the PUA applies to self-employed individuals. So if they're self-employed as a landlord, then they should apply and see what the Department of Labor tells them.
Okay. I'm getting a clarification. See if there's any more.
Just as an aside for landlords, so during this time, if any of your tenants are affected by loss of income because of the pandemic, then Penquist Cap has $500 assistance for every tenant that has been affected by the pandemic. So it's a one-time thing, but it's a fairly simple process. They just apply at Penquist Cap. Penquist Cap sends the landlord a couple of papers to fill out, and then you submit it. And it's a Maine State housing program administered in our area through Penquist Cap. So just there's help out there for your tenants, and it's fairly quick. The money comes within about 2 weeks.
Great. Okay. Not seeing any more questions. Give it another second or two. No, I don't see any more. If you do come up with a question, send me an email and I can get it to Charlie or Anne Marie, see if we can help. So I want to thank both of you for your time today. It was very helpful for our members who've kind of been in a strange world these days. So I appreciate it, and I'm going to hand it back to Scott.
Thank you, Marcia.
Oh, is he unmuted? Unmute yourself, Scott.
There we go. All right. Thank you very much for attending today. Anne Marie, thank you very much. Charlie, thank you. Congratulations to Carmen. And I guess we will adjourn this meeting. Have a great summer. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.